Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Talking Life, episode 4 with the Leyton Orient Manager, Ross Embleton, here on Jake Murphy Media's YouTube channel. Now, something to point out, we did have a nice fancy stream with graphics and stats and everything like that. We've tried it twice, it's failed twice, and the Leyton Orient Manager, Ross Embleton, turned into a robot. So I think it's to do with our Wi-Fi, or my Wi-Fi. So unfortunately, it's just going to have to be over Zoom and less graphic-y, but hopefully you get the content. So looking into that kind of modern world with everyone having to work from home and internet getting awful, you've had to do probably one of the hardest jobs to do in the world at home, and that is to coach a football team from your house.
Yeah, I think it's an eye-opener. And I think I've said this right from the beginning to the staff and the players, but the board have been very driven on making sure that we try to embrace whatever this is and whatever it throws at us and try to come out of it better off. Because I think if you sit back and let it do your head in, it's going to do only that, and it's only going to impact you and what you do every day. So we've tried to embrace what that like it as a football manager, because everything focused on the ball and replays and the delay in terms of being able to watch it is painful for me sitting at home. So when we didn't get it right the way we organised it all for the Cambridge game, but certainly once we were back at home, we were much more able to be organised and for me to be able to watch much more suitable for like I say, from a coaching and managing perspective. So I drove the staff mad with Zoom calls pretty much every day. But they were fantastic. They adapted and delivered what I wanted and we felt we needed. Obviously, very tough to have constant contact with the players, and you know when you know what it's like for yourself. If you sat on a Zoom call with a load of people, it's quite easy to go missing. So that was hard to get those messages across. So I really relied heavily on the staff doing that. Quite well. That's in terms of the way we tried to manage it, but certainly the two home games much better, and obviously the results reflected that.
And what we'll do is, because obviously we've tried recording this a few times, and obviously the internet, we'll kind of give a fast-forwarded part of your history. So you was at Leyton Orient as a youngster, because you've had a bit of a different story really than most football managers. You've not had a 30-year career and then taken over as a manager. You've earned your badges and worked up. And we'll go over what badges you've earned later for that question that we've got in from Paul. So you're at Leyton Orient as a youngster. You're doing bits with like the school holidays, this, that, and the other. Then you go to Tottenham, and then you go to Bournemouth and Norwich, which aren't first team roles. But we'll talk about predominantly your first team role in Swindon. Obviously, Martin Ling was there at the time as well. What was the difference for you jumping from kids' football to men's football? And what were the differences off the pitch and on the pitch with that role?
I think certainly the difference between coaching kids and coaching first team players cannot first team level to have a day off. You cannot afford to sit back and have a bad session, because players have got certain expectations, certain levels that they want to meet and they expect to meet. And at the same time, as the people that are trying to drive that and deliver that, you've got to be bang at it every day. No one's perfect. You all have shortfalls. But for me, it was about a real eye-opener to the fact of how relentless you needed to be to try to be successful. And first of all, to try and win players over and show them that you were driven to make them better as individuals, but better as a. So the intensity, the mindset, and the drive was just as important as having a good session planned and giving doing a possession or whatever the theme and theory was for the day. The important bit was just about as much as you being able to drive individuals on as it was about, run there, move here, put the cones there, do this, do that. That bit followed, and they that bit was about, could you motivate them? Could you make things energetic and exciting and enjoyable every day, as well as being developmental to individuals and players. Off the pitch and on the pitch, obviously, it become a lot more demanding because you put yourself in the first team environment. You're there to be shot at. So, you know, you don't win enough games of football, you get the sack. If you don't do well, you get relegated, whatever it might be. It's obviously a lot more cutthroat. For myself, I found it very, very challenging. I moved away from home. So I was only ever at home a couple of evenings a week. I had 2 young children, obviously, you know, married. Very, very tough circumstances to live through because you want to be at home with your loved ones. So that become very, very demanding. But I suppose underneath a lot of that, making those sacrifices was about trying to dip my toe to see if I was capable, but then at the same time trying to build a bigger and better future for yourself and your family. So you have to make those sacrifices sometimes that become very hard to achieve.
And then we go into 2017. So in 2017, you come back home, you come back to Leyton Orient at a time where the club had just come out of probably one of the darkest eras it's had, certainly in my lifetime. How was that coming into Orient, knowing that, okay, Becetti's gone, we've got the new owners, but things are still far from perfect? How was that first season for you?
I think anyone would admit that they were far from perfect in terms of the fact that my first day at work, I was the first member of staff brought in. We had no physio. So we weren't allowed to train until we had a physio. We didn't know where the footballs were. We had no cones. There was no bibs. The bare minimums of being able to just put the 9 players all under the age of 21 out on the pitch that we had signed. So the circumstances amongst all the other things that have been picked up and smashed on the floor and left in pieces, despite, you know, fantastic work by the people that had survived that era. It was extreme circumstances, and to have built it up from where it was on that first day to where we are now is quite remarkable. But it was a challenge. I always remember I was actually walking into the Marriott at Waltham Abbey for a meeting with another National League club, actually, about going in there as assistant manager. And as I was about to walk in the door, I got a phone call from Martin to say the club's been taken over, the takeover's gone through. As of tomorrow, everything is official and up and running. What are you up to? And I said, I'm just walking into a job interview. I'm out of work. And he encouraged me to go and do the job interview because you never say never in football. But as soon as that was over, I knew that walking out that it was the one place that I wanted to be. And you mentioned there about coming back home, but with all my attachments, with all my background with the club, it was so exciting to be able to walk in. And the crazy thing was that on my first day, I sat down with him and he said to me, listen, I'm going to be signing players. I'm going to be trying to get this place organised. You're going to have to try and get the football part sorted. At the end of it, I don't quite know what job you're going to be doing yet, whether you're going to be with the youth team, whether you're going to be with the first team, but let's get things back on track or get things started. And then we can worry about what else is going to look like after that. So hopefully that gives people a bit of an idea of what the whole place looked like, despite the fact that it was really good people coming in to take the club over.
And then we had that first season, obviously the season you joined within the National League, and obviously Edinburgh becomes the manager. And then we go into the season after, the season, I guess, which is the 2018-19 season. And now you would have had graphics of all these guys, but unfortunately it's going to have to be read off my phone. So no prizes for guessing. We won the league, although at times Salford would have made out that they'd won it. But hey, that's not for you to comment on. Now, we'd played 46 games within that season in terms of the league, won 25, drew 14, lost 7, scored 73 goals, only conceded 35, with a goal difference of plus 38. And then we won, well, we had 89 points. And of course, that final day, which was 0-0 against Braintree, which were already down, to win the league. Now, I guess, obviously, winning the actual league was probably the best moment of the season, but let's take that out, the final day, away from it for a second. What was your best moment throughout that season?
Wow, there was loads. And I think a load of mine was since shivers down my spine now just talking about it. But I think a lot of mine, it's important to recognise is that how many of them were with this group of staff that we had, and obviously Justin leading that at the front. There was so many. We had such a good atmosphere off the pitch. We all got on so well, and really, I'd never met Just properly other than in competition with him, but I didn't know him as a bloke until the first day that he came in and joined the club, and we had a really good working relationship off the pitch as well. We really enjoyed ourselves, and I think that comes with winning games of football and being successful, but at the same time it comes with having good people with a common theme and a common work ethic. So I think a lot of those, too many to remember, but a lot of those memories that really drive me on are those ones that were off the pitch, sitting in the office, going for a pint, whatever it might be, an overnight away trip where you spend a lot of time with the people that you work with. So that was incredible. But I think from a football perspective, again, so many. I think back to like some real pivotal moments that will stick out to people's heads. I think Harrogate at home was a real big one where we beat them live on the telly. I think obviously the madness that went on at Sutton, which to this day I don't think even when you watch the game back you can really describe what that was all about. Eastleigh, in terms of coming back from being goals behind at half time to win the game at home and to get back in the game, and maintain a real good focus towards the end of the season. There was even games early on in the year. We went to Braintree away, and I think the whole of the stadium was just full of Orient fans, and we ran riot that night. We're a lot more comfortable. So there was so many different things. We scored late away to Halifax, like a result that no one will really think about in terms of the scheme of things. But James Alabi comes on and scores really, really late, and the scenes in terms of us celebrating that afterwards were magnificent. And do you know, one of them that really sticks out for me was the FA Trophy semi-final win away to Telford. It was a really hostile atmosphere. People were really coming for us, throwing stuff at us from the terraces, the sides of the pitch, whatever way you want to describe it as. Matty Harold gets sent off really early, etc. We come out of there, and that was despite being Leyton Orient in the position we were and beating Telford. It was unbelievable. I remember celebrating in that dressing room. I don't think, other than obviously the day we actually won it, I don't remember celebrating a victory like that ever. It was absolute carnage because of everything that went with it. So a season like no other in terms of the drama. Even again, so we keep jumping on them, but Havant at home when Matty Harold scored late. So many different scenes that I think us as staff and players in that environment, being out on the pitch and delivering it, there was such an attachment to everybody because of the emotion that kept coming up. And there was like another, I know Orient has that way of doing it to you anyway, it always has done to me, but come up with so many surprises that season that just when you thought it couldn't get any more emotional or any more dramatic, something else ridiculous happened to outweigh the last one that had gone on.
And like you say, being Leyton Orient is never what's expected. I guess there's been seasons throughout the past, I remember since I've gone, where we've been started off awful and been knocking on the playoffs, or started off really well and just dwindled down the table. But in these modern times, in these COVID times, this season is actually the first season since obviously we won the league. Now we have a look into this season because we've kind of almost been a dark horse, I think, as an Orient supporter myself. Obviously, as you know, and the guys know that watch this, I've been working at Harlow and then obviously now working at Dummo. And in an ideal world, Dummo and Harlow would have played a Friday night and Orient would play on a Saturday. So what their football season has enabled me to do is actually catch more of the games, which has been great. So if we go into the league currently now, we just get it up. Like I say, guys, this should have all been on graphics, but we've got to do it on Zoom, unfortunately. First of all, top goal scorer. There are a lot of people that have asked me to ask this question, but I don't know whether you'll be allowed to answer it because it's not fair. But Danny Johnson, second top goal scorer in the league. He's scored how many? He scored 14 within the league so far this season, and obviously he's had a couple of games out through injury or whatnot. Now you look into the actual league itself. This is how tight it is. So I don't know how much attention you pay to the league. I don't know, but this is how tight. Cambridge are currently, having played 24, sit on 41 points and they're top. In second, it's Newport, having played 22 on 40. Carlisle sit in third, having played 21 on 39. Forest Green sit in fourth, having played 23 on 38 points. Salford sit in fifth on 20, having played 23, on 37. Cheltenham have played 23 and they sit in sixth on 37 points. Orient seventh, having played 23 and sit on 36. And then you could just go down the table and all from the 13th to us, there is only 6 points in it. It's a very, very tight league, but what can Leyton Orient do to be the difference this season? What's the aim?
The aim has always been to get better, and I think we've done that each year. People sort of like it or not, but we've done better each year. It was tough the first season, and we finished comfortable in the end, and with a very good feel good about going into the second season. I think everyone expected us to be in and around going up and pushing at the top end of the league that year. There was that expectation to do that. Whether anyone actually thought we'd go from finishing mid-table to finishing top, I'm not quite sure, especially with Salford in and around that as well, amongst other good teams. So there was progress there. Last year, with the topsy-turvy, difficult year that everybody had, we finished comfortable, and I think had the season not been cut short, we would have finished a lot more comfortable than our league position actually suggested. But it was what it was in the end. I think certainly this year our aim was to be better. Our aspirations was to achieve more and aspire for more. And I think that's been driven into the group collectively, not just from me as a manager and my staff, but in terms of the players and what they set for each other was to aspire for more this year. And I think we've put ourselves in a position that we can continue to develop and progress and look upon ourselves with nothing to fear in the league. I think we've already shown that, albeit at the start of the year, we fell short a little bit when we come up against Newport in the Cup and one or two Cheltenham. Obviously, we just come out of COVID, but we've gone toe to toe with the likes of Forest Green. I thought we let ourselves down against Cambridge, but we showed that we were very, very close to them up there. And then obviously we've beaten Newport in the league and Morecambe and one or two others that we've shown that we can compete with at that end of the division. So there's nothing for us to fear, and it's about us continuing to strive for more and not try to bring too much sort of pressure on ourselves. And like I say, really take the ball by the horns and keep pushing ourselves on for the rest of this season.
And it's been well documented in your interviews that there's players leaving and players coming in. Obviously, we won't mention anything that's not been announced. Unfortunately, I don't have the luxury of an exclusive. But let's talk about one guy that has been confirmed a few days ago on loan from Wycombe Wanderers in the form of Nick Freeman. What do you feel that he's going to bring to the Orient?
The big thing for us is that we've brought in a player that's very athletic. I think he's capable of creating and scoring goals himself. I think he makes us a lot more competitive in the positions that he can play. That's as one of the midfield players. That's whether it be wide or the more attacking roles. I think he definitely brings something different and a new energy and athleticism to the group. So we think that alongside that as well, his personality and the fact that he's experienced performing at the top of our league that we're in now and the one above, we think we're certainly making the group and the team stronger when he gets in it.
And luckily, I've just dropped out of this, and then I was like, "Oh no, it's gone down." And then you popped up again speaking, so I did catch most of it. Such is the problems we've got, and I guess almost let's use this to our advantage, and let's talk about problems and put it into football. How difficult has it been this season to actually? Obviously, I know we're in a good league position, but from a footballing point of view, what has the differences been for you? Has there been things that have actually been a hindrance? Have there been things that have actually been a positive? Kind of give the viewers a kind of rundown of what COVID football looks like from behind the scenes.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's tough. Like, it's tough for anybody, and I think what can happen when you're still getting up and going to work every day and other people are not, is that you can get cocooned in your own little world of thinking it's just about what I do and me going to work every day. My missus still works from home. My kids are still homeschooling. So the stresses and strains are still the same, whether you're going into a football environment or if I was getting up to drive into an office to do a different job of some sort. So I think it is tough. But we took a stance at the start of the original lockdown, really, and we said we were going to embrace what this was all about. And it's tough, but I think if you sit there and let it beat you up, it's only ever going to be you that suffers. So it's been about being open-minded. It's been about learning and trying to embrace new things. I think the biggest challenge we've probably found is that huge amount of our success the year we won the league was built on camaraderie, about team morale, and I don't just mean just the players, I mean the staff, the whole collective. But the collective has been dragged away for everybody, but certainly for us, because we were the first club that experienced an outbreak of COVID. So what that's meant is our COVID regulations and protocols and experience has been extended for a lot longer than some others. I talk to managers, players at other clubs, and some of the things that I tell them we have to do to fit into the regulations, they're blown away with. But we've gone through a lot more than a lot of others have. So my biggest challenge I've found is to be able to create that morale. We can't let the boys go out on a Christmas night out, or if we ain't got a game on a Tuesday, get them to go and have a players' night out somewhere. We can't even eat together. So like we finish training, the boys have to get pretty much straight in their cars and go home. So we're not allowed to eat in the same environment. So being able to create that's very, very difficult. We just talked about signing new players, but it's tough to then integrate them players into it, because the only time you really do it is while you're out on the training pitch. So like I said, none of it is, by the way, trying to paint a sob story. It's here and it is what it is. So you got to try to find new ways. And I think that's the great thing for me is I obviously get the thing thrown at me about experienced manager. I ain't played, I ain't done this, I ain't done that. Well, no one's lived through COVID before. So try telling someone else how they should manage a football team while it's going on. So I have an open mind. My first experience of managing a football team is being done through a worldwide pandemic. But like I said right at the very beginning, if I sit there and let it beat me up, then it's only going to be me, my club, and my players that fall short. So we have. This has been our way, Zoom calls when we need to get a video across to the lads, utilising sending things on WhatsApp, doing it over Zoom. Because we can't all sit in the same room and watch a video and talk about what it's going to look like tactically. So we've had to use technology. We have the same shortfalls that me and you have had today, where someone's internet don't work or someone ain't quite got home in time in order to watch it. So it's just about being open-minded and accepting the tough things that happen. So like I said, I think the biggest thing has been trying to create that camaraderie. But I feel that in the last little, certainly in the last 2 or 3 transfer windows, we've brought good, talented footballers in, and we've brought the right type of characters and the right people in that are willing to listen to your new ideas, even if they're a little bit out there. I also think the other thing that is massive for us as a club is that our owners have been fantastic in terms of their communication with the players, staff, and certainly with the supporters as well, in terms of where we're at, what's happening, how it's happening, and how it's going on. Everyone's as transparent as they can possibly be.
And you mentioned, obviously, a little while back in that last answer that your first and second season, or whatever way you want to look at it, with null and void, as a manager of a first team, has been during COVID times. But do you think, in a way, with everything that's happened leading up to obviously you taking the managerial in the first place, and then obviously COVID, will make you a stronger coach going forward in those years to come, because you've been able, or manager, should I say, because you've been able to battle probably the hardest footballing time there's been since the World War?
I hope so. Whatever happens to me in this role, whether I'm successful or I'm not, the experiences and the things that I've gone through, COVID, the loss of Justin, amongst numerous other things, it makes you stronger, and you have to learn from the tough times and the tough things that you go through, and it will certainly make me stronger and better and ready to embrace whatever anyone throws at me. And I think that's something I've always done, so something I feel like I've always ready to do. But I think, like I say, alongside a lot of good people at the club, it's made it what's the right word? It's made it a process that we've been able to work through, in terms of being able to try and come out the other side of it. So I think so. But I suppose at the same time, it's been my only experience. I can't look back and say, 5 years ago when I was manager of this club, this is how we did it. I'm learning a new job in a new environment, but I'm learning it at the time that I am. But like I say, it certainly will make me stronger, like I say, even if whether I'm successful or not.
Now, what I usually like to do with people within football is get the dressing room goss, get the banter, but where they're usually retired or non-leaguers can get away with it, so we're not going to put you through that. So what we'll do is we'll ask a question which I alluded to earlier, and then we're going to go on to some of my previous styles of questions in an old series I used to do, and ask you who your favourite player was growing up and stuff like that. But firstly, let's have a look at this question from Paul Gissing, who's a massive Leyton Orient fan. He asks, what coaching badges do you hold, and what area of coaching do you feel is your strongest area? For example, defensive, attacking, or a transitional type of coach. And is it good to coach all areas, or is it best to focus on one specific area in terms of your strength?
Yeah, I think with regards to my qualifications, I would say that I started mine very, very young. So I did my level 2 when I left school, which is level 1, which you left school. I think at the time when I did it was called the junior team managers. But I did my level 2 not long after it. I done my UEFA B at the age of 21, and then done my A license at 25. So 14 years ago that I did that. I'm actually redoing my A license now because I felt that with 14 years between courses, I wanted to upgrade myself on something, and wanted to understand what the new FA courses look like and enhance my sort of development on that front before I went into what I suppose now are the final 2 areas that I would need to focus on. One's my pro license. Excuse me. The pro license is obviously a massive course and qualification. So I felt like going in to do that right now, as well as trying to be a first-time manager, would have been quite silly of me and would have really stretched me. So it's something I certainly want to go on to do in the past. And then the other side of it is not a coaching qualification, but the LMA, the League Managers Association, actually run a diploma in football management. So I would love to be able to get on that and hopefully do that certainly start that by the end of this season, in order to kick myself on in terms of the management side of things. Very interesting that the LMA always sort of mentioned to me about actually doing some talks and presentations on that diploma because of some of the crazy things I've sort of gone through since stepping into management. So it'd be interesting to see what that throws up as well. So I think from a coaching perspective, is because of working with young players and developing young players and the environment you find yourself in when you work in an academy, is you end up so widespread. For example, when I was a youth team manager at Bournemouth, there was me and another coach. Very difficult to sort of go, right, I'm going to focus on being a defensive coach or a midfielders or attacking or transition and some of the areas that you mentioned. So it then becomes about managing the whole team and looking at all the individuals and sort of saying, right, well, how does my left back develop and how can I put sessions on for everybody? So you become someone that tries to develop the team, but then at the same time, someone who really tries to progress the individuals. And I think that's something that I've always tried to do is home in on making individuals better and progressing them, because that's what ultimately what youth development's like. So I think now what sort of starts to happen, and individual unit coaches, set pieces, all that sort of stuff, he's obviously starting to come into the game a lot more. What we try to do here is I'm always the one that delivers the overview, if you like, the match prep, the tactics, the direct things that we feel is going to impact the games at the weekend. And then we try to divide up across the staff that we've got the roles and responsibilities. So Danny Sender will concentrate a lot on the fullbacks because he was a fullback. Dean Brill, obviously as a goalkeeper, is his priority, but a lot of the video work and extra work that he does is with the other defensive players, the centre halves, the holding midfield players. And then we try to divvy up with the analyst and Matty Harold, the more attacking players, and get control over a real wide spread of people in different positions and make sure that everyone's got different responsibilities. And then, like I say, that can then add back into what I do in terms of how I deliver that. I suppose as well as a coach, my background in youth development was always to try to create creative, positive players. So I would say that attacking wise has been something that I've always concentrated on. But since I've been in this environment, organising a team, making sure that you can attack and defend and be ready to transition again, as Paul asked in that question, I think it becomes a little bit more of a collective. And that was something that I did a lot more when Justin came in. Justin was fantastic, the way that he organised the boys and his atmosphere that he created and the way that he managed individual players. And he let me get on with the coaching. I organised the sessions. I set up the team in terms of him telling me what formation we were going to play or who was going to play where. And then I delivered what I felt was the right thing for us to help us get better as a team and individuals and units within it. I think the other thing to probably bear in mind as well is then as a manager, it's then about how you organise all of your staff, how you impact your physiotherapy department, your sports science department, and fit your sessions around what we need to do to develop the players physically. And then also from an analysis perspective, how we pull all that together. So hopefully I've answered Paul's question there, but like I say, it's a bit of an explosion in terms of coaching.
No, I'm sure he'd be absolutely delighted with your answer. Now, what I would like to do before I go into the questions is I think we'll come back to another interview, if okay with yourself, another episode at the end of the season to see what's progressed to the end of the season, see where we finish. Hopefully it finishes speaking with Ross Embleton, the League One Leyton Orient manager. But let's go into let's talk about you for a sec rather than the Leyton Orient. And let's go into two questions. Your favourite player to watch as a child, and then going into the second part of that, what football manager, past or present, would you say that you try and most base yourself off of?
I think as I grew up, really, one will be one that a lot of the older Orient fans would remember, and then the other one, not many people would be able to familiarise with. But I'll pick out three for try and cover three different reasons. Generations. I think first one, favourite Orient player was Danny Carter. Danny Carter was a winger, wide midfield player. Went down the line, got crosses in, had something a little bit different, always tried to beat a player. So Danny Carter was always my favourite Orient player growing up. My favourite, I suppose, top level player that always jumped out at me and I love watching and still try to watch now on YouTube, and that was Gazza. Obviously, growing up for me, the World Cup 90, Gazza's tears, England getting close to the World Cup final was a massive part of my football experience, but for me growing up, so Gazza was that one. And then my all-time favourite player is not someone that too many people will remember, but it was a guy called Redondo, and Redondo was Argentinian and played for Real Madrid. He went on to AC Milan later on in his career, but had like long floppy hair, cool as you like, bit Perlo in terms of the way that he played. I would probably liken him to him, another player that I love watching. But I suppose them three would be the ones that I always look back as some of my favourite players.
And what I've asked in the previous is to ask players who's the best 5 players that you've played with. So I think if I was to ask you the best players you're managing, it might not sound right, obviously, as you're a manager at the moment. So what I'm going to ask you is, let's have a five-a-side, but the five-a-side's got to be with managers that have either managed your teams that you've coached in the past or managed against you. What's that five-a-side?
Cool. Five-a-side. Do you know what? I didn't answer you earlier. You did ask me a question about
Oh yeah,
I model myself on. So let me come back to that one in a minute. So you want me to pick a five-a-side team of managers that I've managed for or against?
yeah. So either that have managed, you've either been in the management setup with, or you've been a manager against them.
Yeah, well, the first one would be my defender, and that'd be Justin. He'd be captain, and any other accolade that I could give him. Obviously, like I say, we went through so much together and experienced so much. It's very, very hard, isn't it? I think someone that I've got a huge amount of respect for in the game. I haven't managed with him or against. Oh no, I haven't actually coached a team against him when I was at Swindon. So Dean Smith would have to be in that. Dean is very, very good in terms of always willing to lend his support to me and advice. So I really enjoy some of those conversations with Dino. I think someone who was really, really good with me last year, and it was my first official full-time game as the permanent head coach last year, was Ian Holloway. So I would say that Ian would fit into that. I think it starts to get tough now. I think in goal we come up against Tim Flowers last year. I think I just picked Tim Flowers because he was a really good goalkeeper, to be honest. Not last year, the year before. I think in terms of what am I? Two missing, one missing. What have I got? Have I done four there? So I need one more. I think someone that doesn't probably jump out at people, but I think I mentioned him earlier on in the interview. He's Chris Ramsey. Chris was my coach when I was 16. Chris then I worked with him at Orient. I worked with him at Tottenham. He obviously went on to be amongst the coaching staff for Tim Sherwood at Spurs, and then he was QPR manager for a little while. So without him sort of blowing everybody away in terms of his managerial career, I think the influence that he's had on my coaching career would be someone that I'd fit into that five-a-side team. It's probably not the most glamorous one. Maybe in years to come, I might be able to drop a few more names on you that might blow people away a little bit more. And I think for me, the big thing is it's always been about the impression that people make, as people, and as well as obviously the coaching side of it. But I think that's something that's really important to me, is to work with good people and people that are willing to help and assist you. And I think I mentioned those people there, but not Tim Flowers. I must be able to think of another goalkeeper, but certainly the other four are all people that have supported me and given me help, whether that's now while I'm a manager or in my early stages of my career.
Yeah, and I think obviously that resonates what you say, because whoever I ask, obviously funny enough, I've interviewed you, as you remember, a few years ago at the Power Hamlets game, yeah. And obviously that was only little. No internet problems then, funny enough, doing it on a phone. If you've met my uncle, actually, funny enough. But everyone that I speak to said, oh, I've spoke with Ross, I've messaged Ross, or this, that, and the other. You come across really, really friendly, and I don't how to word this. Sometimes stereotypical. If you're like a League Two manager or a League One manager, you may not always get the best side of them, but you always seem to be, no matter how stressed you are, how angry you may get, you always come across nice towards people, and especially the fans and like the journalists. Do you think that's important as a football manager to keep that kind of bond going with the supporters? Because ultimately, if the supporters turn, I guess once the supporters are turned, the job becomes a very hostile place.
Yeah, I think there's a number of things that go with that answer. That's me, and I promised myself that when I took the job on permanently, that I would try and be me in the best way possible, try and be the best version of myself. I think what people want to see sometimes is nasty or aggressive. Like I don't think anybody has to live their life trying to be nasty. Sometimes you do have to be aggressive, or sometimes you do have to side a strong side to you. But that don't mean you can't be a nice person and still be strong. And I think that's a bit old-fashioned in terms of what people want to see from a manager, or what we've grown up in this country perceiving as being the right way to be a manager. And so I think you have to be true to yourself in a number of different ways, and not try to be someone else or something else. I know full well that there's people out there that don't want me to be Leyton Orient manager. That's life. If you talk to Chelsea fans who adored Lampard as a footballer, some people out there will not want Frank Lampard to be Chelsea manager, and Jose at Tottenham. Yeah, all those, any manager anywhere, there's going to be someone or a group of people that are hell bent on them not being the manager, and that's fine. But I don't live my life concerned by those people. I don't worry that when I wear my baseball cap and people criticise me, I don't care. I'm doing what I think is right at that moment. I might just be having a bad air day. So it's about me being me and trying to do my very best to be the best at what I do, because I want to be the best at what I do. Whether people think I can get there or not is irrelevant. I want to be the very, very best that I can possibly be. And I want the very, very best for my football club and my players and my staff. So my way of going about it is to be the person that I am, and try to be straight and honest with people, and try to answer people true, and not try to dodge questions. And that's just the way that I am. And I think that if I were trying to be a form of somebody else, I think that
Well, sorry about that, ladies and gentlemen. We're not too sure where that cut off for you guys. But obviously we're speaking with Ross about obviously how he is, obviously as a person within the manager's game. Luckily, we're kind of getting towards the end of the podcast now. For you guys, the podcast has not been long, but for us, I think it's been nearly 2 hours that we've been going at this. So I guess just to sum up, obviously we're going to get you onto the show at the end of the season, if that's okay with yourself, and do another episode. And a note towards the people watching this video: after you see the bit with Ross, like the interview with Ross, before the finishing credits, you'll see a video from a girl called Libby, and Libby is in desperate need of a bone marrow transplant in order to survive, really. She's a young girl, she's 12 years old. So any way you can help, I'll put the links in the descriptions of the videos, and please get involved, whether it's a donation, whether you join the Walk for Libby thing, and just potentially earn prizes from doing steps, whatever it is, please help. But what we'll do, Ross, we'll end it with you for a change, my guest for a change, rather than myself. What would you say the 5 qualities are to being a top coach?
5 qualities, good question. I think the first one is to be personable. I think you've got to be able to build relationships with the people above you, your board, your director of football, in my case, chief execs, people in those senior positions. I think you've got to be able to build and create a good atmosphere for your staff. And then obviously the biggest one in terms of where you're going to earn your money and where you're going to be successful is be able to create relationships with your players. I think you have to be energetic and enthusiastic, and you have to love what you do. I would group all of those together, because I think that if you don't love what you do and go in and enjoy it and embrace it every day, it's very, very difficult to do the other ones. You've got to be open-minded and be able to think on your feet in terms of organising your team, what your expectations are. You've got to be able to manipulate your preferences to be able to get the best out of your players. Because I think unless you're at the very, very top and you can go and buy all the players that you want, or people fill positions on the pitch with the type of players and athletes that you want, you have to be open-minded. So you can't always work to your own philosophy. You can't always work to the way you want your team to look or the formation that you want them to play. You have to work that around the players that you got. I think that's 4. And I think to enjoy your life, to enjoy your experience of being in it, because this is fragile environment. It's a cutthroat industry. And I think if you get bogged down with the everyday's dramas, if you get bogged down with the what can be negativity at times, if you get your eye taken off the ball in terms of what your responsibilities are, it can be a very, very tough experience. So I think you have to enjoy your life and enjoy your opportunity and your time whilst doing it. And I think if you have all of those things in any walk of life, certainly in any management position, I think you've got a chance of being successful.
Well, that's all we've got time for, ladies and gentlemen. So firstly, thank you very much for coming on, Ross, and bearing with all the technical problems across all the platforms we've got. I shall be getting on the phone to my internet provider straight away. As to everyone watching, thanks as always for your love and support. Please like, share and subscribe. Everyone stay safe. Everyone stay healthy. And I guess let's end it on, come on you O's.
Hey everyone, I just want to say a massive thank you for all the love and support again. We've nearly raised £60,000 and all that money is going to Anthony Nolan. They are currently spending it on getting kits ready and sending them out to you guys to help them find me a donor.